खण्डनं भवबन्धनं जगबन्धनं वन्दे ॐ ह्रीं ऋतं त्वमचलो गुणजित् गुणेभ्यः नाक्तं दिवं सकरुणं तव पादपद्मं मोहं कषं बहुकृतं न भजे यतोऽहम् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो भक्तिर्भगश्च भजनं भवभेदकारी गच्छन्तलं सुविपुलं गमनाय तत्त्वं वक्तुधृतोऽपि हृदये न मे भाति किञ्चित् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो तेजस्तरन्ति तरसां त्वयि तृप्त तृष्णां रागे कृते ऋतपथे त्वयि राम कृष्णे मर्त्यामृतं तव पदं मरणोर्मि नाशं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीन बन्धो कृत्यं करोति कलुषं कुहकान्तकारी श्रान्तं शिवं सुविमलं तव नाम नाथ यस्मादहं त्वशरणो जगदेक गम्यं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीन बन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमो श्री भगवते रामकृष्णाय नमो नमः। ॐ सर्वमङ्गल माङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। सृष्टिस्थिति विनाशानां शक्ति भूते सनातने गुणाश्रये गुणमये नारायणी नमोस्तुते। शरणागतो दीनार्त परित्राण परायणे सर्वशारति हरे देवी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। जय नारायणी नमोस्तुते। Jaya Narayani Namostute. Jai Mahamai ki Jai. Jai Bhagawan Sri Ramakrishna Dev ki Jai. Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Jai Vrindavan Vihari Lal Ji ki Jai.
Namashri Atirajaya Vivekananda Sure Satchit Sukhasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So we were discussing this lecture by Vivekananda, God in Everything, and in the previous discussion, the theme that had been brought up and discussed was essentially this apparent conflict between the head and the heart that starts off with and resolves it by saying, by ultimately concluding that these two things are not in contradiction, but rather complementary to each other. And this is the more mature point of view. And as we had discussed last time, the Vedantic notion of buddhi involves a combination of the clear rational intellect along with the feeling that drives it and the will to execute. So it's a synthesis of faculties, not one in conflict with the other. This is the point at which we start. Most of the religions understand the fact, but the error into which they all seem to fall is the same. They are carried away by the heart, the feelings. There is evil in the world, give up the world. That is the great teaching, and the only teaching, no doubt. Give up the world. There cannot be two opinions that to understand the truth, every one of us has to give up error. There cannot be two opinions that every one of us, in order to have good, must give up evil. There cannot be two opinions that every one of us, to have life, must give up what is death. And yet, what remains to us if this theory involves giving up the life of the senses, the life as we know it? And what else do we mean by life? If we give this up, what remains? See, here, the more superficial religious content of, okay, so there is this bad in this world, there are things happening around us in this world that we do not like, and solution often given is, well, give it up. Crudely understood, it means essentially giving up the life of the senses, but this means it's essentially giving up life as we know it. And this superficial dictum, or this superficial exhortation given by almost all religions of the world, here is being regarded as a kind of an erroneous discussion or an erroneous exhortation, basically because it's a kind of a suicidal advice. Okay, so what difference is there between that and the advice for somebody to commit suicide? It's this is really the problem that we will be addressing in this particular lecture. What is the correct understanding of the statement, give up the world? Yeah. Okay, so we understand that there is this notion of good and bad that we see around us, and there is very few of us who would want to have this bad as part of our life, so we want to shy away from it. But when we do this, the only solution that's prescribed by these religions is that you need to give up the world as it is. But that means giving up life, and so it's not understood in this particularly superficial way. This advice to give up the world does not really seem to be anything reasonable. So what is the reasonable advice? And that's something towards which we are moving. We shall understand this better when later on we come to the more philosophical portions of the Vedanta. But for the present, I beg to state that in Vedanta alone, we find a rational solution of the problem. Not something that contradicts reason. Very often you will find people who are votaries or advocates of one organized religion or another. Very often they basically say, oh, you have to believe such and such a doctrine. You have to believe such and such a thing. Even if it contradicts your rational faculty. What it really means is that those people who have advocated these doctrines, people who have advocated such dogmas, have not thought through it deeply enough to make it compatible with our reason. And therefore, there are these convictions which one holds on to, despite the fact that clear reason tells us otherwise. This kind of belief is of no use, and it's certainly not what Vedanta advocates. Yeah? So hence, this particular problem, which is a very real problem, and the solution given by traditional religions of giving up the world without really asking what that expression means, is not what is being advocated here. What is the rational solution? Here I can lay before you what the Vedanta seeks to teach, and that is the deification of the world. This is the core point here. It is our point of view, the subjective point of view, that needs adaptation. What is a simple step towards that? Yes, the world has good, the world has bad. Choice. When something bad comes in front of us, we can turn our face away, pretending that it does not exist, and move towards that which is good, which attracts us. But invariably, in every life experience, these two polarities occur very often together. So the more reasonable, mature point of view is to accept that so long as I am attracted towards that which is good, I will be repelled by that which is bad. So the good and the bad are aspects of our life's experience. These polarities are natural concomitants of life experience. The wisdom lies in accepting this simple fact. And then one goes to something that is more fundamental than what we used to regard as good. So, for example, suppose we say that, look, there is this huge amount of rain that is falling right now, and it causes inconvenience for certain people when they want to go about their business, maybe want to come to a particular place. That aspect of the rain is, well, what we would popularly or in day-to-day terms call something that's not very good. At the same time, the water reservoirs in different places, including in Bombay, Powai Lake, for example, is filling up in the process, and that water is going to sustain people for a long period of time, for a substantial part of the year. That certainly is a good aspect of the same phenomenon. We've given a simple instance here, but this is something that is quite ubiquitous. It occurs everywhere. Something that is good from one point of view, namely from the point of view of a person going about his business, wanting to walk from one end of Bombay wanting to travel from one end of Bombay to another. From that person's point of view, it's not particularly good. But from the point of view of the larger society, over time, this is a good. This is something good that's happening. So how do we really distinguish? Wherein lies the locus of determining whether something is good or something is bad? As this example that we just now gave, what it shows us is that it depends entirely on one's point of view. It is this point of view which the faster it starts quitting its attachment to particular prejudices, particular viewpoints, and becomes more enlarged, sees other people's perspectives as part of one's own, this superficial idea of good starts falling away and is replaced by a deeper and larger notion of good. What do we really mean by saying that something is good? And it essentially leads us to that question, fundamental ethical point. Our first inclination is to say that it's good if it is something that is pleasant for me. This is the narrow personal perspective. The other is if it happens for the benefit of a larger number of people. And it is this universal dimension towards which one moves as one tries to penetrate through this more superficial wall of dualities of good and bad. And as one perceives these deeper, more universal aspects, one understands that these notions, good and bad, are not anything absolute, but are one side and the other, one side of a coin and the other of our day-to-day lives. Leads to an acceptance of this state without us getting emotionally involved or caught up in these dualities. So, when one sees this notion, when one talks about deification, which is what is being talked about here, it is not giving up of the world in a physical sense. It does not mean that you give up food, water, living in a house and go and hide yourself in some corner. What it really means is when you are looking at the world, try to probe deeper into the reality that we see around us. Which means in this very moment, in this very place, look at the world more deeply. Through quiet intensity, look at the world so that its inner content is revealed more clearly. Do not stop by thinking that this common sense view of the world is all that there is, but rather it's a cloak, as it were, a covering, as it were, on what we regard as truly real. And so the heart inquires what is real, what is true, both about oneself and the world. This quest for truth is what is being advocated here. The verse, as we said last time, from the Ishopanishad, which is being alluded to, which will be alluded to as he goes on, is the very first mantra of that Upanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magda kasyasvid dhanam. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. First it says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. All this, all that we see around us, this entire world, is to be covered with Isha. That's the name of godliness or God. That's one. Tena tyaktena bhunjita, which means enjoy the world through giving it up. This is a rather paradoxical exhortation. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. You are free to enjoy the world as you like. Only Do not see it as the end in itself, but as a source of something much deeper, not something that is transient, not something that is going to give only momentary satisfaction, but at a certain fundamental level, the reality behind the world and the reality behind myself, the reality behind oneself, is the same. To proceed towards this understanding that I am not different from the world, I am part and parcel of it. This unification of one's subjective consciousness with what we call the objective consciousness behind the world. This unification and the joy it leads to, that is to be enjoyed. And it cannot be done provided so long as we maintain the view, this common sense view of the world as it is, as an end in itself, to be used for gaining something externally. What is being asked is to probe deeper, look deeper into the world. And when we say that look deeper into the world, what one really means is look deeper into oneself. This deeper understanding of the world, this better understanding of the world, it cannot be done by staring at the world outside, but it can be done by refining the instrument through which we look at the world. What does refining the instrument mean? It means this conscious intelligence, this principle of knowledge through which we look at and understand the world. That needs to get refined. What kind of refinement? Basically broadening it and making it all-encompassing. This all-encompassing nature of the vision is exactly what is meant by this first part, Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam, the deification of this entire world. What is this practice? The practice for this is rather simple. And it is this particular practice which has implications in various traditions. It does not say that stop doing such and such. You have your day-to-day activity. It's not saying stop doing that. It does not say stop eating. It does not say stop drinking water. But rather, it says that do whatever you are doing, but do it with full awareness, full alertness. Vivekananda has said in his Karma Yoga, it's basically doing whatever one is doing with full attention. The Buddhists call exactly this practice the practice of mindfulness. The Christians who give it a more theological angle call it the practice of the presence of God, which means in and through every action, in and through every thought, what is focused upon, what is given importance, is really the consciousness part of it. Not our usual way of thinking of this world as an object, but rather, while looking at the world, while thinking about it, the focus is on the underlying conscious aspect of it, instead of what appears as the object. The subjective consciousness which is being brought to bear on the world to gain and extract knowledge from it, the subjective consciousness which goes out and derives joy, the subjective consciousness that drives our will and makes us do things, this subjective consciousness is the point of unification of these three faculties: the faculty of knowledge, the faculty of feeling, and the faculty of willing. This common locus being emphasized, it does not necessarily have to be in our hours of meditation. It could be in hours of very intense work. It could be in hours of relaxation. It could be while eating. It could be while sleeping. It could be while moving. Every moment of our existence is accompanied by this notion of being conscious of it. This stepping back is what is the real giving up. It's giving up the view that this world is made of these various objects, but rather adopting the view that it appears basically because I am conscious of it, and this conscious aspect of me is universal. It is there in everyone. This is the switch in the point of view that is being talked about. And this he goes on to expand on in the next few lines. The Vedanta does not in reality denounce the world. Two words, denounce and renounce, but with such different meanings. Denunciation has a clear negative aspect to it. It's basically the same as attachment, but with the opposite thing. It's hard dislike versus hard dislike. But renunciation means stepping back to a deeper dimension of oneself. It does not mean some bunch of physical acts, but it's stepping away from our conventional way of thinking and moving to something more fundamental, something deeper. But at the same time, dry, suicidal advice is not intended. It really means deification of the world. And here he summarizes this whole thing in one line: giving up the world as we think of it, as we know it, as it appears to us, and to know what it really is. Deify it. It is God alone. And finally, he comes to this quote from the Ishopanishad that he paraphrases. We read at the commencement of one of the oldest of the Upanishads, whatever exists in this universe is to be covered with the Lord. So we've essentially talked about these various aspects. Deification, which means essentially see that this world is God alone. Which means in and through how is this related to these other passages from the Upanishads that we've talked about before? See, this Kenopanishad, we have mentioned this passage from there before. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hivindate. Through every act of cognition is this ultimate truth sought. And here somehow it's being saying that the action is to deify, look upon the world as God itself. And we somehow feel that the first, this covering up of the world with God is really a kind of a devotional practice. Whereas this other thing, in and through every act of cognition, this consciousness is known, is a more analytical thing. In fact, it is not. It is really a point of unification of feelings and the faculty of reason. In terms of actual practice, what one is supposed to do in order to move towards this deification of the world is exactly the same thing as this understanding this statement in and through every act of cognition. This ultimate truth is known. The one is put in more theistic language, the other is put in more clear rational language, but the content towards which it is pointing is this locus of unification of feeling, reason, and will. And the practice in both cases is exactly this maintaining of alertness and awareness at every moment of existence. If that's the case in our day-to-day lives, then when we sit for meditation, we are going to bring the same quality of mind to it. And so, in the absence of external distractions, the mind is going to focus on what it is supposed to be focused on. So, this particular lecture really stresses what we are supposed what we are supposed to do with our day-to-day lives. And the solution is this Ishavasyamidam Sarvam. The earlier parts stressed the subjective analysis more, also Viveka. And here, what one is stressing is essentially the deification of the world. Again, Vedanta and Madhyamaka Buddhism have very great parallels. In Madhyamaka, this is very often referred to as this Pratitya Samutpada. Interdependence of all things. That means this whole world is one organic reality, one organic whole. It's essentially saying the same thing in two different languages. You can say, without the mention of any personal God, Pratitya Samutpada, this world is one organic whole. Or, same statement from a more devotional point of view, this whole world is God Himself. We will return to this, but very likely for the rest of this month, I will not be around. So we'll resume again maybe in October. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.